You're listening to the Travis Makes Money podcast. What is going on, money makers? Welcome back to the Travis Makes Money podcast, where it's our mission to help you make more money. Today on the show, we're talking about real estate. I know we talk about real estate a lot on the show, but hey, real estate has made more millionaires than anything else in history. So it's probably something to check out if you're looking to make more money or park your money somewhere that's going to earn you more money. So today we're talking real estate with my good friend, Steve Arneson. Steve's a real estate entrepreneur and investor and the founder of Synergy Mastermind, which is a high-level community that helps investors and entrepreneurs scale their businesses while building meaningful relationships. Specializing in real estate investment specifically, Steve has helped generate millions for his investors through strategic property acquisitions on the West Coast. But before we dive into this conversation, if you're tuning in, you're wondering how I build relationships with the amazing people on my show. It's through the podcast. The podcast is the Trojan horse of connecting, but it also helps me grow my audience, build a personal brand, sharpen my expertise, attract more deals to myself, and even pays me money to do all of those things. So if you are already running a successful business, 7, 8, 9 figures, and any of what I just said sounds appealing, and you're looking at starting a podcast or just improving your existing show, head over to travischappell.com/coaching. There's a quick application. We'll jump on a call, see if we might be a good fit to work together. travischappell.com/coaching. Steve Arneson, what's up, dude? Welcome to the show.
Travis and everybody listening, what's going on? Hope you're having a fantastic day. Thank you so much for having me, brother.
Of course, man. It's been a while. You're the homie.
It's been a minute.
We go way back, dude. We were walking
Early days.
We were walking the streets of Thailand in like 2018.
Yeah, exactly.
Somehow.
Yeah, and Vegas even before that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And you even came on the pre-trip in Thailand too, huh?
I did. Oh man,
Yeah.
that was so much fun.
Yeah. Well, it speaks to exactly what we talk about all the time, which is like my show, Travis Makes Money, is about making money. And my other show, Travis Makes Friends, is about building friendships and having experiences and stuff like that. And, the coolest friends are the ones that you get to make money with, or at least talk about money with, because then you get to do all the fun things at one time. So let's start with a softball question here, bro. How do you make money?
Softball answer is going to be value add real estate.
Okay. What did you do before real estate?
Oh man, before real estate, I was in international business development for avionics companies. And so the company I worked for beforehand, they had a really great B2C model, but they
Okay.
needed a stronger B2B model. And
Okay.
so my role was to go into those two companies that I worked for and build up their B2B models.
Interesting. Okay. So at that time, were you making good enough money to have excess cash and you were looking to park it somewhere, or what was that
I
experience?
was, but I was so stupid with money back then. I would have been 24, and the job that I was in, it was a global market that I was playing in. So I was building distribution networks in Brazil and Germany and Nepal and Singapore, basically anywhere but North America. And so my role was to go into these countries and establish relationships and help build our business through building their businesses. And so I spent all my excess money on travel while I was there. If I was in Nepal, I would take an extra 4 days and go backpacking. If I was in Germany, I would go and see some cool show. If I was in Brazil, I'd go get lost and do stupid stuff. And yeah.
I mean, as far as spending money goes, that's not a bad way to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, do you regret any of that at all?
There's some days that I do. Like the thing that I regret about it is not being sort of financially literate about it, right?
Mm.
So I I,
Like you could
I
have done
love
both.
the I could have done both,
Yeah.
yes. And there's probably weekends that I would have sacrificed, be like, ah, you know what? I don't need to go and do this thing. I'd rather put $4,000 into a savings account or an investment and have that, that would have been 24, 25, 26 years old. You know, that's 10 years ago. I'm 37 now. It just would have been a little smarter, wiser, gray hair decision.
Yeah, gray hair decision. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, maybe a little bit more prudent. Yeah, because that's the thing,
Yeah.
right? Is like that's the whole reason this show exists, bro. Is like uh, money. What I say on the outset at the end of every show is like money only solves money problems, and then you're left with the problems that money can't solve. But I always find
Hmm.
that it's just easier to solve those problems if you have some money in the bank. And when you're in a position where you're earning well, it can kind of you tend to not think about the times where you won't be earning well or whatever. It makes you, you know what I mean? Like you have this kind of young person optimism that's like, everything's all good and it's never going to be bad. And you don't, again,
Yeah.
you don't
Young and
have that
naive.
gray haired perspective, that it's not always going to be like this. And maybe in the meantime, I should be doing something. But also, it doesn't mean that while you're in Nepal, you shouldn't take 4 days and go see some stuff, because that would also be a massively missed opportunity. And you could be sitting here with like maybe a few 100,000 extra in the bank because you invested every single penny you ever made. But then it's like, but for what? Like the only
Yeah.
reason we make money is to exchange it for memories and experiences and friendships anyway. So like there's got to
And the
be a
memory bank
balance
account would
here.
have been empty.
What's that?
And the memory bank account would have been empty.
Yeah, which is arguably more important. you know
Yeah.
so the question then becomes like, okay, well, how do we do both? So you obviously got to a point where you were like, I don't want to keep doing this thing, I want to start doing this thing. At what point did real estate become the thing that interested you enough to get you out of that other job to pursue this full time?
Yeah. It was actually through sort of like one of those guru seminars
Okay.
where I was really skeptical going into it. A buddy of mine dragged me to it actually. And it was on the third day talking about how joint venture partnerships work, specifically on value add income properties.
So it was a real estate seminar specifically.
Correct.
Do you even remember why you had an interest in that?
I literally had zero interest in it. It was a
Just
friend of
your buddy
mine who
was
was
like, you
like,
got to come with me.
I bought 2 tickets. You're the only person I know in town. Do you want to come? And I was like, not really. He's like, I'll buy pizza. So I was like, okay.
Here's a free ticket and free pizza. Yeah.
But then I was hooked. Like a lot of my family comes from real estate. So I had a lot of the general context to the
Okay.
conversation already. And I had the business sense because of the career that I was in. And so, with his experience on the construction side of things and my experience with people and business, it ended up being a really great partnership for us. And the numbers just started to make sense. Our market really made sense. And the opportunity at hand of being able to analyze where our numbers were going to be, understand the cost to it, understand what the after repair value is going to be, have that as an income property, as well as the security of the equity that we've built in that property, either hold or sell down the road. It all added up to equal wins.
Yeah. The only downside, I guess, is that in the meantime, the type of investing that you were doing did not bring you immediate income, right? So
Correct.
did you have a, like when you were leaving that job, did you have a plan in terms of like, I got to save up this much money, or we got to figure out how to actively make income, or were you just kind of like, screw this, I'm all in?
Screw this. I'm all in. I came home one day, told my now fiance, "Hey, I quit my job." She was not too happy, but we figured it out. And with the like, we flipped a couple of properties, which put in some income. But you're absolutely right. Like the model at the time was not about putting money in the bank today. It was about how do we build for future value.
Yeah. And at the time, you were not loaded with cash, right? So your
Dude,
model was like,
I was living on credit cards at the time.
really?
For real. Yeah.
All
I
right.
probably had um maybe 10, 15 grand in the bank. So probably like 3 mortgage payments and then credit cards.
Wow. So when you made this leap, it was truly a leap of faith for you.
It was 100%.
How did you bridge the gap?
To which gap? Like
Like, how did you actually start generating money to pay your bills and pay off credit card debt, so where you didn't just get further and further down this crippling hole where you're begging for your job back 12 months later?
yeah, through some of the flips that we did, we're making a little bit of capital on that. I sold the residence that I was in,
Okay.
and so that put a good amount of money in my bank account that I had like some more runway
Paid off some
to.
debt.
Paid off the debt, exactly. I had leftovers to take some of that. Rebecca, bless her soul, taught me more things about money and how to manage it properly. And so we put some into savings, we put some into investment, and then we had an allocated amount for runway.
Hmm.
How do we build a business? How do we continue to put food on the table today? And what does that number look like? And so when we had it all broken out, I can't remember what it was, like 8 months or a year or something like that. It was like you have a year runway to go and figure it out.
Yeah.
And worst case scenario, we have the savings, we have the investment, and you can go get another job.
Yeah. The safe path is always an option. That's what somebody
Correct.
told me one time when I was looking at doing something risky. I was in my mid 20s or something, and they're like, "Bro, you're so young. The safe path's always going to be an option for you. You can always go get a sales job. Yeah, it's something
Yeah.
you can always do. But right now, like you may not always be able to pursue this potential opportunity or career. So do it now. The safe
Yeah.
safe path's always an option."
And that would have
Um,
been 8 years ago.
wow. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that was like right before we met then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, right around that time. So when you first got started in entrepreneurship, I think we all kind of have this tendency. Well, I say we all. If you're coming from a job, especially like a corporate job where you get paid good money to do what you do, um, you have these. You kind of glorify entrepreneurship, like you romanticize the idea of working for yourself. What were some of the kind of earth shattering realizations that you had coming out of having a good job that had steady income and paid you well to now I'm making all the decisions and it's basically 100% up to me if I have a paycheck to cash?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things, dude, was the switch between basically having one hat. Hey, here's your job. Here's your job description. Go do these things. To wearing every hat.
Mm,
And I undervalued or underexpected, whatever the right word is, how much more work it was going to be to, create lead gen, to do finances, to find new projects, to work with investors, communication, do hiring, do taxes because we're year end right now. Like all those different things that you have to do as a business owner when you're, new into it as a solopreneur or as a very, very small or lean team. It becomes overwhelming quickly.
yeah, no kidding. You and Randy started this together, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you had a business partner at the time. What's been your experience with having a business partner? What's your advice on that?
There's pros and cons to it. So right now, like my business is going through a challenging phase of things. The Canadian real estate market is really suffering, and we're no longer business partners.
Mm,
And so one of the things that I'm challenged with now is all of the weight, all of the pressure, all of the decision making. There's no relief.
mm,
Whereas with a business partner, you can kind of share the load sometimes. Somebody goes through a lull and you can pass the baton and be like, I'm burnt out. I need a break.
yeah.
Give me a week, give me a month, let me rally back. There's also like the piece about skill sets, right? Randy and I had the business skill set, he had the construction skill set. We had very complementary skill sets.
Yeah.
So it worked out really well for a long time. And so um, it really depends on what's required in the business. And I think people typically jump into partnerships far too early in the relationship and are usually like, hey, bud, let's go try this. And then that try turns into some sort of success and goes, well, cool, let's go all in, like I did.
Yeah.
And without doing a full sort of exploratory type of like, what happens here? What happens here? What's a shareholder agreement? How does that work out?
Yeah.
And
Setting proper expectations, even like people, I think just they kind of walk backwards into partnerships a lot of times, just like, oh, I have a buddy and we're both interested in this thing. It's like
yeah,
that does not mean you should be partners. you know
totally.
like even just expectation management, like maybe one partner is okay with making 500,000 top line and the other partner wants to go to 5 million top line or 50 million top line, and it's like, well,
Absolutely.
somebody's going to be really upset because the business is going to look wildly different if you're at 500K top line and you're okay with that. Then you can take distributions out of the business, you can take profit from the business, and you can live a pretty good lifestyle on the money that you're making and the profit in the business or whatever. But the person who wants to go to 5 million knows that you can't take any money out of the business at a 500,000 top line. If you want to go to 5 million, 100% of that money's got to go back into reinvesting into the business to either get your time back or to get more customers or to hire better people or to have better systems or infrastructure. Like you're going to have to make decisions that are going to be wildly opposed to each other. And it can be a
Hmm.
very fast path to burning bridges in relationships that used to be really good ones. You got to think about it a lot more than you think you got to think about it. It's very similar to a marriage. when you get into business with somebody. Like you're going to be dealing with really difficult things, and it has to be somebody who you trust completely and somebody with whom you can be extremely honest and radically honest about different problems that are coming up. That's why they say everything you want in life is on the other side of a difficult conversation you're putting off. It's like that's business partnership to a T, because most people just aren't willing to have that difficult conversation, and then they build resentment and anger, and then it ends with a bad split, and the business almost never makes it through those split ups either.
What would you do differently?
I personally wanted a partner. So I'm a little bit opposite, because everything I've always done has been by myself. So like whatever I do in like the next phase, in terms of like if it's a grand vision, I want to build a big business, I would look for a partner that I would take on. I would just be very, very careful about who it is. And
Hmm.
the other thing is, you got to have complementary skill sets. It's not like what you alluded to earlier. You can't you can't find somebody who just wants the same thing as you and has all the same skills as you, because then it's like, well, what are you partnering for at that point? You'd be better off just like both doing the same thing for different businesses almost, rather than partnering. So I would look for a partner personally, but I'd be curious to hear what you would do differently.
I think one of the things that I'll do in the future is a lot of partnerships start off 50-50. The hard part with 50-50 is who makes the decision,
Hmm.
right? And so you either have to have a third partner in there for like sort of voting majority, if you will. Or what I'll probably do in the future is I'll bring on partners, but I will always be the majority share.
Hmm.
And so that decision will be mine and mine alone, if you will. Like at the end of the day, I'll hold the weight and responsibility of whatever that decision might be.
Hmm.
But you also get the benefit of being able to pass that baton, use other people's skill sets.
Hmm.
And I don't think it's 51-49. I think it's like, 60-40 or something along those lines, where there's still quite a bit of vested interest.
Yeah.
But there's enough that as the company grows, like if you're side hustling right now and you're trying to make an extra 5, 10K a month or 100K a month, whatever the number might be, if you're side hustling right now and you bring on a partner to do something like this, you're still probably thinking a little bit bigger. Well, how do I get to that next level? How do I quit the job so I go in all in on this full time because you love it and it is proven now to be successful? You're going to have to likely um, give up some of your equities to bring on other highly skilled people. And so to manage that as it starts to dilute a little bit, I would just want to make sure that there's a clear decision maker
Yeah.
somewhere in that process.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And one thing that's cool about business arrangements is there's no set rules. Like you can make whatever
Totally.
rules you want as long as everybody's 100% on board for those rules. So like even if the equity split remains 50-50, you could have an operating agreement that just says like I get 2 votes, you get 1 vote. You know what I mean? And any future partners will get 1 vote. So, like, if we bring on 2 more partners, you three could potentially outvote me at 2 votes. Or you could just say, I always get majority vote. Like, I always
Yeah.
get a zero point 0.5 extra vote, no matter how it works out. Like, you can set up the operating agreement in a way that allows you to do it without having to worry about like, somebody could own a majority of shares in the company, but if one person makes the decisions based on the operating agreement, then that person's the ultimate decision maker and the ultimate authority in making that decision. Now it gets a little bit crazy if you're like 90% owner and have no say in the business. Nobody's going to agree to those terms, right? But yeah, you can set it up however you want. Like there are no specific rules to making this work. As long as everybody's in agreement and 100% clear about expectations, then you can set it up however you want.
And I think one more thing I'll just add on to that too, Travis, is that incentive can be totally different too, right? So if you have a 9 to 5 right now and you're hustling on a side hustle right now that you have like full conviction in, you can totally keep doing the 9 to 5 and build out the system of the new side hustle, maintain majority share, but pay everybody else.
Hmm.
So you could do your 9 to 5, work the extra hustle, build up a really skilled team. You take zero salary from that new business, for example, or a small salary from that new business until it gets to that point where you're so confident in the team that's in place, the product that you have, and the market capitalization that you're going to get over the next 5, 10, 25 years to keep the security of the 9 to 5. And then when you're ready, make that jump. And I think
Make the
that's
jump.
something that um, is probably an underutilized strategy because people are impatient.
What are some other underutilized strategies or maybe underutilized skills when it comes to starting a new business, forming partnership, making more money? What are some of the underutilized or underrated
Something that I've actually been experimenting with recently is what do you call it? Lead magnets.
Hmm.
Just really simple lead magnets that really show off, that give true value,
Yeah.
like true tactics that are like a quality product, like well made, and then just have good branding. And it seems really, really simple. However, it's typically time consuming to create
Yes.
and to articulate to whoever it is that's going to be sort of like the consumer of that thing, right? But it's a really great way to build an email audience. It's a really great way to like build a reputation of providing value as well as showing off your experience because you're going to have to convey knowledge of that particular topic.
Mm-hmm.
So I think investing more time into lead magnets is something that I've been doing recently, and it's been working. I have a framework we can talk about that if you want, but
Yep.
it's been underutilized as well, I think, in most markets.
Yeah. So for those listening who may not understand what he's talking about, this is like a lead magnet would be something for free that you give to a potential customer that teaches them exactly or shows them value in a way that gets them to want to continue to engage with you. Whether it's typically a bribe for something like you're bribing them to sign up for your email list to get constant notifications. You're bribing them to subscribe to your podcast. You're bribing them to take their first step into your retail store. Like, so you're trying to show that, hey, this is what I'm willing to give you for free. Imagine if you paid me. You know what I mean? So it kind of shows them exactly what you can do. I think it's super underrated, man. I appreciate you for bringing that up, and it just speaks to the fact that as a business owner, you've been doing this for 7 or 8 years, and like you just recently are thinking about like maybe there's some of this lead magnet thing when it's like there's so many areas of the business that you have to master,
Yeah,
and you can just get lost in the weeds so much and get deep on these crazy strategies, and you get and especially in the guru space you get lost in all these one size fits all things that the next guru is trying to preach at you. And at the end of the day, psychology remains psychology. If your free stuff is better than everybody else's paid stuff, then you'll probably be fine because you're going to earn
yeah.
more business over the long run. What would you do today, bro? Like if you had to start over, everything's gone, business is gone, relationships are gone, you had to start over and you had to make money this year, what would you do?
Man, I would first off do a bit of like a self-reflection on two different things. One, what are my immediate strong skills? Two, what is my network?
Hmm.
So assess like that low-hanging fruit. So that's just general advice. For me, it would probably come into some sort of business consulting, um, play of some sorts, working with
Hmm.
people to uh, build lead magnets, for example. Like, is that a thing? And helping businesses grow, and that would be like the main thing that I would probably start off with personally. There's a lot of room for that, I think, in like the AI space, if that's your deal. I think there's so much room for like for creative opportunity right now.
Yeah.
People are fighting for it, for ways to stand out, and I think that's an area that I would go explore.
What would it take for you to go back and get a job?
You know what? It's I don't know, probably just the right environment.
Hmm.
Like, um, entrepreneurship is challenging, man. Like it's tough working. It's tough finding great people,
Yeah.
right? And keeping those great people,
Yeah.
whether they're partners or they're, employees or team members. Um, the one thing that I know for sure is like I can't work for somebody else who's a poor leader or where
Yeah.
there's poor culture. That is just never ever going to happen. But if there was a cool mission and there was great people and I thought that I could really truly contribute and the opportunity was right,
I totally
it'd be
agree.
debatable.
Yeah, I think when I first started in the space, it was like you can never pay me. There's not enough. You know what I mean? I was just like
Yeah.
so. I was well. I mean, I was young and silly, and I was just hard headed about it. It was like there's just no way you could ever pay me. Blah blah blah. And I was just like, as I've gotten older, the more I've come to realize that the solve is not ultimately to do nothing. Like when I was in my early 20s, that was kind of what I thought. It was like, well, true freedom is the
Same.
ability to just like sip a Mai Tai on the beach and be done. That's retirement. And if you could do that at age 30, you're golden. And then the older you get, the more you realize that that's not the solve. The solve isn't doing nothing. The solve is doing something that fulfills you every day. So now it's a little bit
Also, I
easier
think the
to
solve
find that.
changes too, right?
Sure.
Because one of the things that Rebecca and I, that you have experience in this already, like Rebecca and I are planning to have kids soon.
Mm,
So my priorities totally change,
yeah.
right? So there's something to be said about a job and the security that comes along with it
Mhm.
versus the risk that's associated with starting a business
Yeah.
and being an entrepreneur.
Right. It's just deciding which risk you want, because there's risk
100%.
everywhere. It's like if you take a job, the risk is that you're not going to become wealthy working a job unless you're the CEO of Coca-Cola type, job that you're looking at. Like if you're in management consulting and you can get paid a couple million a year, that's a little bit different. But for sake of illustration, we're talking to a bunch of normal people because we're just normal guys, and we don't really have those options available to us. So
Can I fight you there for 1 second?
yeah, please.
Okay, I'll try to be quick about it. But like, one, define wealthy, right? There's wealth for me might be location independence.
Sure.
Well, for somebody else might be $7 million in liquidity, right? So, um, I'm a stickler for language and words. Just wanted to put that part out there.
Yeah, that's
And
sure.
two, and two, I think that I do believe that like there is rhyme or reason for the quote unquote traditional system. Get a job, invest the 10% or whatever the number is, compound that over 35 years, and you're going to have, you know, a mortgage that's likely close to paid off and $1 million in the bank.
Yeah.
And if you hit on a Tesla or if you hit on a Nvidia or if you get a unicorn somewhere in that portfolio of investing, there's opportunity there. And I think I don't want to discredit the opportunity for people to still be able to live a wonderful lifestyle
Yeah.
and feel wealthy with what they have.
Well, I appreciate you clarifying that. What I meant by wealthy was like an outsized version of success that you can only enjoy by taking massive risks and essentially being a gambler in the market, which is what entrepreneurship is in a lot of ways. That's all I really
Totally.
meant by that. But yeah, like I 100% agree that. I mean, the biggest study ever on millionaires was just done by Dave Ramsey and his team, and they found like the top 5 vocations of millionaires, and one of them was a teacher. It was like
No way.
teachers do not make bank. You know what I mean? Like
No.
you can sit, you can save and invest and be smart with your money, and you can end up with a few million bucks. But I was more meaning like you're not going to get to 100 million by being an
Yes,
employee somewhere, whereas you can get to 100 million by building an awesome business and selling it or whatever. So my point in bringing it up is just to say that like either path is a risk. You're taking a risk by working a job because you have no control over remaining employed at that job. They could decide that this your entire division is now getting let go and now you're
obsolete.
jobless and you don't have like there's risk regard like the idea of avoiding risk completely is nonsense. Risk will always be involved. The question
I
is
agree.
what risk are you willing to take and what reward are you most wanting to work for, and then taking a proper assessment and stepping back and being like, okay, I think that this path could actually really work out for me. But that's why I say the solve becomes not about what the end result is, not about like sipping Mai Tais on the beach. The solve is how do I spend the majority of my waking hours in my day doing something that lights me up, fulfills me, brings me some sort of joy. Will it be 100% awesome all the time? Absolutely not. I don't care who you are. Doesn't matter. Even the people with the quote unquote dream jobs hate their job every once in a while. It doesn't matter what you do. You're gonna not like it sometimes. But if you can put yourself in a position where you can wake up every day and feel good about the thing that you're doing, like that's the solve. Then the question just becomes like, well, what type of lifestyle do you want? And does it fit within the realm of the thing that you're currently doing? And if not, how can you go do something that brings in a little bit extra so that you can fit your lifestyle within that? But yeah, I think for like all of my 20s, man, I think I was just solving for the wrong problem. I was looking for this like massive outsized return so that I could sip Mai Tais on the beach. But then like I got a ton of freedom inside of my business where, I didn't have to spend as much time doing everything in my business. And then I entered this period of being super unhappy and like depressed and unfulfilled. And I was just like, it's because I'm doing something that I don't really care about just as a way to make money. And that isn't the solution. The solution
Hmm.
isn't just money related. It is also like, what am I doing every day with my time? Because like we need purpose, we need meaning, we need fulfillment, we need all of those things in order to live a happy life as a human being. And so if you are solving for the wrong problem, then it doesn't matter how hard you work to solve it. You're still going to have the problem, you know?
100% agree, Travis. And I think the piece out of that is like make sure that you're in a job that gives you the survival, whatever that survival is for like, taking care of you and your family.
Yeah.
And once you have that, hopefully that also equals the piece of you being fulfilled in that position.
Right. Right. Yeah. Cause that's where the financial discipline comes in. Right. It's like, it looks different for a 21-year-old single dude who can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and could move to, you know, Thailand tomorrow and not, not give two thoughts about it. Whereas there's a difference for the, 42-year-old guy who's got three kids and they're in private school and they have single income because his wife is a full-time job at home mom. And like he's trying to do something different, but he's making
Yeah.
75K a year and there's more month at the end of his money every month than there is money at the end of the month. So he's like, got to figure out a way to piece it together. And like, if you can remain financially disciplined for that time period, you can set yourself up to be able to pursue the things that make you more fulfilled on a daily basis when you get up every day. But the fact is, like, there's always going to be risk associated with every path. There's always going to be sacrifice and struggle associated with every path. You just have to ask yourself, which risks and sacrifices are you most willing to take? And then go do those things.
And I think one of the best things that you can do is either listen to podcasts like this about that or talk to local people in your market who are doing the thing that you want to go and do so
Mm.
that you can truly understand what it really takes, what the real reward could be, what the real efforts are going to need to be required in that space, as well as what the real cost is going to be. Both
Yeah.
like financial cost, but also the cost that you have to pay emotionally, time wise, physically, perhaps, like all the mental strain that comes along with it too.
Love this, dude. Let's move on to the last round here and I'll get you out of here. Just some quick random questions, quick random answers. You ready?
You betcha.
What profession other than your own do you think that it'd be fun to master?
I'm so fascinated with um, like renewable biology.
Hmm. Flex and fail. Tell me about a purchase that you've made you're happy with and one that you regret making.
Oh, one that I'm happy with. For the first time in my entire life, last year, I bought a quote unquote nice car.
Ah,
And I still could not justify going out for like a new car or anything. It was a used, high value, sort of like keep your equity in your car Toyota RAV4. Still had like 150,000 kilometers on it, but it was like, cool, I can put 20K into a car. I no longer need to use that 18 or 1986 Civic that, barely runs and looks depressing. um, the fail out of a purchase recently. Oh, I can't really think of one. Um, I'll just say booze. It's never a good thing.
yeah, because there's rarely ever a return. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could sit on a park bench with someone, past or present, and chat for an hour, who'd it be?
Richard Branson.
How do you like to learn best? Books, audiobooks, blogs, podcasts, newsletters, YouTube videos?
Conversations.
What is a resource that you'd recommend on making money?
Mentors.
What is something you are not very good at?
I am not very good at confrontation.
As we get everything wrapped up here, Steve, where can people go to get more from you?
Best place to connect, man, is my Instagram, and it's Steve Arneson official, all one word.
At Steve Arneson official over on Instagram. Go follow Steve. Tell him you heard about him here on the show. Ask him some questions about real estate. I know he loves chatting real estate. Steve, thanks so much for doing this. For everybody else listening and tuning in, remember, money only solves your money problems, but it makes your other problems a little bit easier to solve if you got some money in the bank. So let's solve that one here first on the Travis Makes Money podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next episode. Peace out.